You're listening to Second Cut. This is the weekly podcast from thefilmmagazine.com where we talk about topics in film criticism, theory, and history through film reviews. I'm Jacob, and I'm the one who finally perfected that intro. Hey guys, I forgot to turn on your audio, so introduce yourselves again.
Hey,
I'm out of practice. We missed 2 weeks.
2024 started properly.
New Year, same old technical glitches. All right,
Thank you, Greg.
I'm Sam, and I'm the one who's lucky enough to have already seen two of my most anticipated films of 2024.
I'm Kieran. I'm the one that refuses to do an intro now, just to annoy him.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I'm out of practice. You know, it's
A whole 3 weeks off.
I can't touch buttons. I don't know. But yeah, we're talking 2024 movies because, you know, we like talking about movies that exist but nobody has seen yet. So
Yeah, let's start the year hyping up. By the way, has anybody seen the 2024 release yet?
no.
Funny you should say that.
Because I have.
Oh.
Yes, I've seen two. I saw two at film festivals last year. Yes. So.
No. I mean, like one that actually released this year so far.
No, I haven't.
Those are 2023 releases, by the way. But
no,
go on.
They're 2024 wide releases. 2023 premieres. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've seen Poor Things and Monster, which are both 2024 in most of the world. You know, I think Poor Things came out for a little bit in the end of December in the States, didn't it? But
it's really annoying because, like, the US gets all these films spread out throughout the year, all the ones that are going to be Oscar contenders. The UK gets half of them. And then the second half, there's like 8 or 9 that come out within about a 2-month period that there's no way you have the money.
Normally mid-February.
Yeah, January, February, March. So we've got like Poor Things coming out, Ferrari's just come out, Maestro's just come out, you know, like there's going to be a couple more. Boy and the Heron is in a couple of cinemas in the UK, nowhere near me, so that's going to get, that doesn't get animated.
I think I'm going to have to see that this weekend, if at all, or else it will be going from my local cinemas.
Kieran, which one did you see?
I went to see One Life last night, which is a new release done by BBC Films with Caesar and Universal Distributing about Nicholas Winton, who was the British Schindler who saved several hundred children just before the war broke out in Germany and Czechoslovakia. And it's got Anthony Hopkins and Helena Bonham Carter in it. So no, I just saw it and it's like, okay, another subject matter. Oh, Anthony Hopkins in it, right? We'll go. And my Christmas present for my parents was essentially to get them tickets for Ferrari because we're all motorsport fans. So it was like, I will escort you. I will pay for the tickets. I will pay for you to have the concession, everything like that, and just do like a day out, an evening out for them as their Christmas present. But One Life was showing pretty much at the same time, and it started a few minutes after and ended around the same time, so it just worked like that. So my review of that will be coming out when the film magazine comes out of dormancy in a few days' time, because we're allowing the editors some time off.
Yeah.
So by that we mean
this is
Joe.
the film magazine for now. Yeah.
Oh, and none of you were there for it, but we had a really cool film magazine get together for Christmas. That was a lot of fun getting to see everybody.
So
not just you two.
Start writing for us, and maybe we'll let you in on the.
Because we do have this kind of relationship where we're talking, we're firing messages to each other all the time, and commenting on each other's work, things like that. But you don't really have proper conversations very often. Yeah. So
they're usually very work related.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I guess. By the way, I was looking through what's out in my local theater right now to see if there's some new release already. And I saw that AMC Theaters has this thing called Screen Unseen. So be the first to see a new film on the big screen with a surprise twist. The movie will be unveiled at showtime. So...
okay, so it's like an unknown premiere kind of thing.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's like a premiere, like the movie hasn't been released yet, or if it hasn't, you're going to see it a week early. Or...
Look, I'm just going to say...
a secret cinema over here, isn't there? Which is a similar kind of premise.
Yeah, and I think Cineworld's is like a Screening Unlimited or something like that. It does equivalent of, but I would never go to one of those after seeing Demons from 1986, where that happens and all the demons break through into the real world in the cinema, and there's like a zombie apocalypse in the cinema. It's Lambert de Bava, so like after that, I'm not going to any of these. Like I will test it out on real audiences first before I get taken over by demon zombies. It's not happening.
And this is not a sponsorship, but it's only $5. So, feel free to give me a free movie, AMC, for shilling.
I was going to say on that thing, AMC. If you want a partnership, going for it in Cineworld as well. So there's that, and I will also possibly Saturday be going to see Night Swim as well. The new James Wan produced. James Wan's doing a typical thing where he finds a short film that's about 4 minutes longer because you do it with lights out as well. Go, let's turn it into a feature. And from the looks of the trailer, the trailer is literally just a remake of the short film, which is about 3 minutes long, and then just and then we've no idea what's happening. So I'm guessing what it's going to happen is it's going to be a bit like When a Stranger Calls, where the opening of A Stranger Calls is a remake of the short film, like the actual Have You Checked the Children and the Babysitter, and then the rest of the movie has almost nothing to do with this stranger calling bit. It's just a completely different movie with an introduction tagged on, because it's literally just remake that and they had to come up with another film for the rest of it. So I'm expecting that's what Night Swim is going to be. But so a week in, I'll have seen 2 new releases. So take that. That's the only up I'm going to get on these guys.
How many films have you watched in total to 2023 so far in the first 4 days?
I've just finished, including short films, because I watched the Night Swim short and I watched a Robert Eggers short in preparation for this. I have now seen so far 11 films so far this year.
All right, you're doing very well. I'm lagging behind. I've only seen 3 films in 4 days. That's not like me.
No, it's not.
How are you going to hit 500 and whatever, beat last year's record?
I'm not. Besides that, I'm not going to aim for that this year. I think the 1 film a day one will be good enough for me. I think 365's a more chilled target.
I was going to say I got to 317 last year, including shorts, which is my best so far. But it's like, come on, you can hit the 365 at least. So it's on the times when I have the time, I'm just binging as much as I can to do that. And if anyone isn't playing along with the Film Magazine's 100 film challenge, obviously you should get involved, and you should keep us updated. With the hashtags on Twitter. I'm not calling it X, Twitter. As you go along, you can play on easy mode or hard mode, which is like films you haven't never seen before. Ultra hard mode, I think, will be purely 2024 releases, which I think you'll need to go to some festivals to somehow do or be a millionaire.
All right. With that, we are going to get to some questions before we talk about some movies that, for me personally, it's not a movie I'm super anticipating. I just like the director a lot. But we're going to talk about some big upcoming releases, and we're going to start with the questions, though. Oh my gosh, Greg didn't submit a question. Wow. I was going to start with Greg because I know he's watching.
He just assumed that Greg would have a question, and he doesn't.
There's still time, Greg. Come on.
Still time, Greg.
Time. Yeah, in the chat.
I'm going to start with this one from Joe, Editor Joe. He asks, there's been some talk that the blockbusters set for 2024 won't be big enough to surpass those released in 2023. Do you believe this will be the case?
Yes.
So they will surpass or won't?
Whoa.
No, they will not. They're not big enough to surpass.
And are we talking in terms of total box office growth, or just
international?
Yeah, but I'm talking all the movies is a total gross overall for cinema, or are we talking that none of them will hit $1 billion?
I just think, I don't know. The total of.
Okay, the year. Let's put it this way: the year just gone, there were two movies that broke $1 billion, weren't there? Barbie and Mario.
Yeah, Oppenheimer just fell short by
just fell short. Yeah,
a couple of mil, pretty much.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure we'll get $1 billion grosser this year.
Okay.
If we do, it will be a surprise. I made a quick list looking at some of the ones that have been announced so far. And when you say the blockbuster, and then you actually look at some of the ones that are coming out, The three we're going to discuss, Mickey 17, the Bong Joon-Ho, probably won't.
No.
Dune, amazingly, probably won't. 500 mil, if it gets that, I'll be impressed, actually. I'm expecting 400, 300 mil. Nosferatu, it'll come out near the end of the year and doesn't have the time to do it. But then you've got things like Furiosa is coming out. Beetlejuice 2 might surprise. And then you've got things like you've got another Ghostbusters movie coming out. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is coming out. Ballerina, the John Wick spin-off. Inside Out 2, I'm expecting 700 mil at least. I would expect, because Inside Out is one of the better Pixar movies of the past sort of 15, 20 years. And then even things like Quiet Place Day One, that'll get to 150 mil easy, I reckon. Deadpool 3, people will go
3,
that.
Yeah, and that may turn around people's kind of perception
500 mil.
that Marvel is failing, because Deadpool's always been one of the big hitters.
Joker Folie à Deux, 400 mil probably.
I was wondering about Godzilla, or whatever the Kong movie is.
Godzilla
and like
Kong the New Empire.
The last Godzilla versus Kong, it seems like it should have made more. It made 470 million. So like that was one I was looking at going maybe, but.
And that was released just after, literally on the back end of the pandemic, wasn't it? You know,
that's a good point.
That was summer 2021.
It was one of like obviously it was released on streaming first, you know, while cinemas were still shut, and then it has a small release window following that, you know, when things open back up. So
let's do this.
I was working in a small cinema at that point, and there were people going to see it. It wasn't like it was just dead every time, but it wasn't like it was packed every time. But.
Give 3 movies that you think have the best chance to hit $1 billion. Let's do that.
All right. I'm going to say Deadpool, Inside Out, and maybe Mean Girls, just as an outside chance.
Yeah, I'm looking at stuff. Yeah, Mean Girls has a shot.
I would say.
I think of those 3, I think only Deadpool is seriously like.
I would say Joe is right. I think this is going to be a down year, even compared to last year. But my number one, Despicable Me 4. It's a family movie. You're going to get multiple tickets sold. Like, it's in July. I don't know if it'll hit $1 billion.
If it's out in July, it will. What date is it? Is that in the US and the UK? Or just the US?
I don't know. I'm just looking at Rotten Tomatoes lists of anticipated movies, so I would guess that is my number one. I will look
July
for 2
3,
and 3.
Yeah, that'll get near $1 billion easy. Because it's the summer holidays, at least in the UK, and parents don't have anything to do with the kids. They'll just take them to see Despicable Me 4. So I tell you what, cinemas will be very happy to be running that.
You know what? Here's what I'm going to take for my other 2. Mufasa the Lion King, another family movie. It'll be a December kind of Christmassy release, so it could. And the other one, Venom 3, just because for some reason Venom makes lots of money. So
the thing is, we're getting 3 Sony Spider-Man spin-off films next year for some reason.
You've got Madam Web and you've got Craven the Hunter, haven't you?
Yeah, and I don't know why they're still making them, because they're not doing badly, but they're not doing great either. I mean, you're right. The Venom ones generally are pretty profitable, but the others are they keep putting all these Spider-Man villains to operate in films without Spider-Man. It just doesn't make any sense. And cares.
I reckon they're doing it so at some point, like if Marvel goes downhill enough, Sony will get the rights to Spider-Man back, and they can do like a Spider-Man like Villains Unite, almost like a No Way Home thing, and they've already set up their villains.
Maybe, I don't know. Just find it very weird. My little question kind of spinning off from this was, we're going to talk about hopefully like 3 really good films that we're most excited to see next year. But have you two got any kind of almost outlier kind of things? Stuff you're probably less proud and more morbidly curious about seeing. Stuff that you'll probably enjoy, but you might not necessarily be proud that you're enjoying about. You kind of I mean, for me, I mean, obviously we've just had Godzilla -1, so we know what a really great kind of new Godzilla film is like. But I'm looking forward to Godzilla X Kong as well because I love my big dumb monster movies. I just want to see two big CG animals wrestling and just kicking the shit out of each other. Basically, it's just I think it's going to be a lot of dumb fun like the previous one was. So I'm quite excited by that.
I'm wondering if I might like Terrifier 3.
Still haven't seen 2.
Yeah, like they're interesting movies. Like I really like. I don't love them, but like I like them. I think they're fun little. I don't know if it's really an indie thing anymore because now it's a franchise. But
yeah, I was gonna say the first one was shot for like the catering was a couple of donuts.
Yeah, it was cool. So I'm not really ashamed to like it per se, but like that's one that I think is off the beaten path from what I would think about. Like, oh, my favorite movie of the year at least.
Yeah. And looking at, I've made a small list, and not everything's on there, but I'm seeing one that they keep mentioning it, and I keep forgetting they've actually done it, and that's Twisters, which is the Twister sequel. And I'm there going, it's not going to be good. It just won't. But at the same time, it's a Twister sequel.
Yeah, and if they were going to do it, and I know obviously it's no one's fault, it's a tragedy and everything, but they should have done it while Bill Paxton was alive.
Yeah, and then I'm also looking, and there's some stuff where it's kind of like you want it to be good, but at the same time, I just doubt it's going to be. So, for example, Gladiator 2 is a movie nobody wanted or needed, but they're doing it for some reason.
Because Ridley Scott keeps doing trying to do a victory lap of all of his previous hits,
Yeah. And then as much as I hate to say it, Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
I can't see it grabbing. Then at the end of the year, you got Lord of the Rings: War of the Rohirrim, which yes, it's new line and yes, it's big screen. So even though we don't talk about The Hobbit very much, the first one wasn't bad. And then it was just a stupid decision to split it up.
It's Lord of the Rings anime. That sounds awesome. I'm well up for that.
But at the same time, I'm going, will people just be put off because their last memory of Lord of the Rings was Rings of Power?
That's not mine. Mine's The Hobbit.
I was going to say just as bad. Actually, no, I think Rings of Power was worse than The Hobbit.
I'm not going to go into this, but my hot take is The Hobbit's not that bad. Carry on.
The Hobbit is not that bad. It goes worse. But anyway, yeah. So there's just some that I'm just looking at, going, I don't know. Like, I want it to be decent, but I don't know if it will. The Joker Folie à Dieu, we know that's going to make loads, and there's just some stuff where I'm like Bad Boys 4. Are people going to be interested in Bad Boys 4?
Well, the last one made enough to justify it, so
right before the pandemic. Well, let's move along here. I have a question. This isn't really about 2024 movies. It's actually more of just a Denis Villeneuve question. But my friend / supporter Justin asks, we know that Denis loves like wide shots, large scale, movies basically, and particularly like I was looking through his movies. Arrival was like the one that really stands out, or Blade Runner. Do we think he could ever make a monster movie project that's like heady, but also has the action and cool stuff in it?
Yeah, I mean, Enemy has monster movie elements to it. I mean, they're all in someone's head, but it's got monsters in it.
That is heady.
I mean,
yeah, I think so. I think he's just as much of a fan as all the normal genre stuff as many of us are. It's I don't think he sees himself as above that.
Yeah.
I think it would be a different kind of monster movie. I don't think it would just be a monsters beating the crap out of each other, which I haven't seen the 2021 Godzilla vs. Kong. But as far as I can remember, I did see an interview with Adam Wingard going, look, people come to a movie called Godzilla vs. Kong. What they want to see is Godzilla beating the shit out of Kong, and Kong beating the ever-loving crap out of Godzilla, and that's what we're going to give them.
Yeah. I mean that was the first film I saw in the cinemas after they reopened, and it was on the biggest IMAX screen, and it was just me and a lot of dads and their little boys just staring in awe at this massive screen at the big monkey punching the big lizards. It was incredible.
Well, a movie that has a Friday the 13th reference in it with the sleeping bag kill. At one point, he takes and whacks him into a building. That was a reference to the sleeping bag kill.
I think also for me, like, Arrival is sort of a large scale alien invasion kind of thing, but then also with Blade Runner and Dune, his last 3 movies, they're adaptations, like, essentially, so or continuations. So I think he could work in like that large scale, not
Arrival
necessarily a
was also
Godzilla
an
movie.
Thank you.
Maybe Pacific Rim 3 or something.
Yeah, Villeneuve and Del Toro team up.
I could see it.
It'll be interesting to see if the next project is actually Rendezvous with Rama, because I love the book, and the trouble is it only really starts giving you explanations like the second and third books. The first one gives you sod all, which is great.
Real quick on the collaborative directors thing, because he also asked that. He said, I wonder what a Denis and Wes Anderson collab would look like. What are 2 directors you would like to see collaborate on a project?
Oh
no.
I want to find 2 completely polar opposite directors for the most ridiculous thing possible.
Oh, I mean, I'm just going to steal Denis and Wes Anderson, because, like, it would be weird to see, because Wes Anderson's movies are so quirky, put it in his style, but make it really heavy and dark and introspective, and, like, not that Wes Anderson isn't, but on a larger scale, darker.
Do you pick like mismatched directors just to see the chaos that unfurls, or it's like if you put Ridley Scott and David Fincher together, it's like one man famous for shooting a mile a minute and not over fretting about anything, and the other guy obsessing over every single detail.
David Lynch and the Russos.
Macro versus micro, that'd be fun. Or you have like an Edgar Wright with Sam Raimi, who are basically the same director but a generation on.
Well, let's be honest. Shaun of the Dead is just like. Well, the whole kind of smash cuts thing is him going, in space we ripped off John Carpenter, so sure that we have to rip off Sam Raimi. I want to see something like, I don't know, Chloe Zhao and Takashi Miike or something absolutely stupid.
That would be fun.
Or Jennifer Kent and somebody,
Very wide landscape shots of people getting butchered. Yeah, I can see it.
Jennifer Kent and John, whoever it is that does John Wick.
That'd be awesome. And James in the chat, be sure to watch us live so you can chat. He says Clint Eastwood and Taika Waititi. I would amend that to say Clint Eastwood and like the youngest director currently working.
Clint Eastwood and Bo Burnham.
Clint Eastwood and is it Rose Glass that did like Saint Maud?
Oh yeah,
new one coming out next year as well. I think Love Life Bleeding.
So let's hit a question here from listener James. Which 2024 film would be bettered by the entire cast being? The entire cast, but one being a Muppet. Yeah,
because you've always got to have the one human in a Muppet film for it to kind of work, and they've got to treat the material seriously. So I was talking to my friends earlier on about this kind of sort of question, and since I've already seen it, I could say it would be very entertaining to do this with Poor Things. And
I could see him doing it, if we're being honest.
Yeah, but I think I'm not even sure if I'd have Emma Stone as the human. To be honest, I think it might be more insane to have Mark Ruffalo stay as the human and just
Miss Piggy as voiced by Emma Stone.
Yeah, just have Mark Ruffalo as like the one lecherous human left in a world of Muppets exploring their sexuality.
Question: if you did it with Godzilla x Kong, are Godzilla and Kong Muppets, or
make it the scientist character?
Just
It's
Miss
Beaker.
Piggy and Kermit just beating the crap out of each other. It's a giant kaiju.
But you can only have one.
So in the new film, it's Dan Stevens and Rebecca Hall as the main human characters, I think. So one of them stays, and just have two giant kaiju Muppets. Why not?
Yeah, no, literally just like somebody with like a monkey hand puppet, just like in massive, and like a Godzilla hand puppet. I would call that either that, or I'm looking at things like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
would be interesting. Either that or Ballerina, which is the John Wick spin-off with Anya Taylor-Joy. Just Anya Taylor-Joy like absolutely shooting up violently a load of Muppets.
Yeah.
Alien Romulus, but in terms of kind of character, I'm keeping the alien. All the other human characters are Muppets. The Xenomorph is the only kind of.
I'm gonna
oh
go.
my God,
I'm gonna
hang
go
on.
with Mean Girls, and we make it Katie. She's the Muppet, and everybody else is still a human.
No, the other way around. Everyone's Muppets except one character.
But the question is one Muppet.
Oh, only one Muppet.
Every movie would be better if you make everyone a Muppet. If you make one person a Muppet.
Deadpool 3, but Deadpool is the Muppet.
I think you've inverted this question now. I'm not sure if it works anymore.
Wait, which way, James? Tell us which way you asked it, because
no, it means everyone is a Muppet except for one human character who stays as a human.
Ah, okay.
So you think about the Muppets films in the 90s. So like Michael Caine was the human in Christmas Carol. Tim Curry, well, there are more humans in Treasure Island, but Tim Curry was the main human.
I thought it was the inverse, where you have a normal movie, but it's one Muppet, because Muppet movies are that way.
That way round, Deadpool 3, doing it.
So you make like Venom 3, everyone is a human, but then Venom is a Muppet.
Either that, or one thing that I'm surprised neither of you have mentioned, we've got Maxine coming out as well.
Yes. Keep Mia Goth as the human.
Yeah. And everyone else.
Okay, sorry. If we're making everybody Muppets, then Transformers, and then the non-Muppet is Optimus Prime.
all the other Transformers, they're just hand puppets.
And the people. Okay.
We could play this all day.
What about Twisters? It's only Helen Hunt, and then everything else, including all the Twisters, are Muppets.
If we're doing it my way,
is a
the
Muppet.
Twister, the Twister's a Muppet.
I don't, they won't do it, but now something in me is hoping there is a new Sharknado we don't know about. So there's a load of shark Muppets. It's Tornado.
Let's jump over to one of the questions from listener Liam. He says, is this a peak year for unnecessary sequels? Hello Gladiator 2, Beetlejuice 2, Twisters, and apparently he was not aware of Venom 3, but we'll add that.
Bad Boys 4.
Oh, I'm sure he's aware of Venom 3. He's probably just trying to pretend it doesn't exist.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. So I guess
I don't think it's there's a lot of them, but I don't think any more so than some previous years we've had. Really, it's just Hollywood's got a Hollywood, you know.
And you got to have these big dumb sequels that unfortunately makes the money back in order to fund the little actually decent movies. So
yeah, and then Ghostbusters. We got Kung Fu Panda 4. Oh, Mickey 17. I didn't even see the other 16. So
how awful. I was gonna say we've also got the Nosferatu. I haven't just seen Nosferatu 1 yet.
This makes me want to go back and look for like what is the peak sequel year, but I think it would, or unnecessary one. I think it would be a mid 2010s where it's like just a bunch of dumb stuff, like
including Triple X Return of Xander Cage.
It was whatever year that Terminator Genesis came out. I seem to remember there were a lot in that year. I think it was like Terminator Genesis, and a Pirates film. A Pirates film came out then as well. Was that Stranger Tides? And then there were a lot of others. I can't remember now. But yeah, it was
either that or in the 80s somewhere where it was all just like slasher movie sequels. Like 83 or something like that.
Now let's move to necessary sequels. Liam also asks, will Dune be helped or hindered by the delays?
And guess who's taking over for Dune?
I suppose they're pleased now that they can have their truly impressive cast actually promote it when it comes out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think that was the main. It was basically done. I think that was the main reason for delaying it. That they didn't want to just unleash it on the world and not have Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya being able to go and talk it up.
I would think also, so maybe something that was supposed to come out in that slot, they can move it into a slot where, because they couldn't film, it just gives a little bit more wiggle room for releases.
Yeah. And with a lot of things, kind of obviously because of the delays now being pushed back till next year, then I suppose it's, as you say, it's freed up some space, and it's probably going to make it look a bit less like it's a bit of a barren wasteland this year for big scale kind of films.
Yeah.
As far as helped or hindered, though, I mean, I don't know if it makes a huge difference. Like it's an event movie, and people are going to see it probably in the same rate or droves or whatever as they would have in November.
And I think the thing this year, I think what's going to happen is that you say we don't have kind of the blockbuster power, but we still have a good amount of big budget movies. They may not be like the ones that are going to get 1 billion, but we've just been talking about 15, 20, 25 of them. And I'm wondering if we're going to get sort of a situation where we have like Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible, where they're too close together, and not everyone's going to get to see some of them, and so they're all going to take a hit as a result, because nobody has infinite money, and you're going to pick and choose which films you see and which ones you catch later on DVD or something like that. I think that might happen. Thankfully, I think Dune is coming out before most of them kind of hit. I think the only one around it really is going to be Furiosa, in terms of the same kind of, and maybe Ghostbusters, the same kind of maybe month stretch. So Dune might survive because of that. It's not like there's like 5 or 6 massive ones within about 2 weeks span. But who knows?
Yeah. All right. Well, yes, Kieran, you're correct. This is a great segue into me talking about Denis Villeneuve. I'm not necessarily going to be talking about Dune. I didn't rewatch it. I probably should have. And I also mentioned I'm not like super anticipating it. Like I'll watch it. But I didn't love the first one. I don't love the story of Dune. It is what it is. It's nice that there's a better one than the David Lynch one, although that one has a lot of charm and entertaining aspects. It's really well made, but going back through and watching a few of his movies and remembering Blade Runner and Arrival, like I feel like from my memory of Dune, the visual style of it is too clean, for lack of a better word, compared to I'm thinking especially of Sicario and Blade Runner 2049 with Roger Deakins. Like, he's so good. And what I noticed from watching a lot of his movies is who the cinematographer is has a lot of effect on like what I think of his movie in general, because he's not the traditional auteur. He doesn't write his movies, although he'll get screenwriting credits. He doesn't, I'm sure it's a collaborative process on the visuals, but they're starkly different from movie to movie. And I think that's interesting. What do y'all think about the first Dune? Not Lynch's, Villeneuve's.
I thought it was a really good first half of that story. I can't really judge how well he's kind of executing his absent until I see what he does in the second half. Really.
Yeah.
And to be honest, with the book, there isn't a good place to split it. Really, he'd have come across some kind of drawbacks wherever he decides to do it. So where he decides to put the kind of the halfway point is as good as anywhere, really. So
I think it would almost have worked better as like a mini series, like a 7 or 8 episode series like that. Because if you're gonna, the trouble is the story is too long for a single movie. Unless you're going to make it 4.5 hours or Napoleon length, as Jacob knows. The 2 movie split that's about the best place you could just about do it. But the trouble is that the final kind of moment of the first movie is not the big crescendo that something big and epic like this is. It's personal, and the personal bit comes before the big epic bit, which justifies it in the kind of hero's journey kind of thing.
It reminds me a little bit of how they ended Fellowship of the Ring, to be honest. You know, in terms of like you've had like your finale, so to speak, and then
First
sort
breakfast.
of it ends on a bit more of a kind of a contemplative kind of thoughtful kind of
But I mean, even with Fellowship of the Ring, it is the end of the Fellowship breaking up. For Dune Part 1, realistically, you'd kind of need it to be kind of them fleeing the city, is where it ends.
Oh,
but you kind of almost need to make it almost like 3 movies in a way, where kind of the city falls as the end of the first one, then discovering the kind of the tribe of the Fremen and, you know, assimilating into that culture is the second one, with a little bit of thing going in. And the third one is the big is the jihad that they have going back and claiming the city. But then you've got it in 3 movies, and you've got to stretch it now, which is too much. So there's which
is why The Hobbit didn't work. And they're originally going to do The Hobbit as 2 films, and then they said, "Oh no, you can have more money and freedom, so we'll keep padding stuff out until we've got 3 films worth of."
And for Dune,
they're like, "Oh crap, Harry Potter has ended, Batman has ended. We don't have any other franchises. Can you, please?"
For the ending of Dune, I mean, like, I don't super remember the story fully, other than it's like, you know, hero's journey stuff. Like all of the details, at least the big picture stuff I remember. But the first movie isn't really a story. It's like it's set up for the story that will then happen in part 2, which is maybe why I don't love it. It was executed really well. It looks good. The elements that are there are cool, but like, I've never really engaged with what's going on in that movie.
And I still have an ongoing, like, what the hell, the score won for Dune. And I'm going, like, it's just like, yes, it works as a soundscape, but you know me, I want a traditional, proper kind of melody lines or singing or dancing, proper symphonic.
I like to think it one of the space bagpipes. There's one memorable theme is when the Atreides are charging in and sending the space bagpipes kicking out.
I mean, I watched it kind of 2022, so it'd been out for a year or so, or at least a couple of months, and I think it got all the Oscars. I'm there going, like, the score's okay for now, but it's just not, like, memorable at all. Like, I could not say a single thing of Dune right now. Nothing.
Yeah. So, but the real reason I wanted to pick Dune Part 2, which, I mean, I'm gonna see it. I'm sure I will enjoy it more than the first half, because Zendaya will actually be in it, and I wasn't sold a scam.
You only went for Zendaya.
Yeah, it's where all the, like, the actiony cool parts, you know, that's where that part really takes place. But I want to talk about Villeneuve, because I remember my first sort of encounter with him was Sicario. Although I'd seen Prisoners, it was on like a streaming service, so I watched it. But Sicario was the one that I watched, and I was like, oh, okay, who's this guy? And then he really started kind of blowing up on forums that I read. Kieran, where did you sort of get in with Villeneuve?
Yeah, I'm gonna be the one guy that insults everyone that Sicario is on my eternal to watch list. And there are times where it's kind of, you know, I go, I should actually go around to watching Sicario, and I'll watch it later today, and then something else crops up, and I just never do. But I mean, it's I think I'd seen Arrival before 2049, but 2049 is where I kind of clocked Villeneuve, because Blade Runner, obviously, and I remember seeing the trailer in the cinemas for the first time, never seen it before, and it was a preview of something, and me just like hyping in my seat, you know. Blade Runner. I'm going to gush about that movie until I die. but yeah, that's it. And then all the stuff he's done after it. And I have seen Arrival, I've seen Blade Runner, I've seen Dune, I've seen Prisoners as well. And Villeneuve is a very accomplished filmmaker, a very good one. I haven't obviously seen his French stuff. No, I haven't seen Sicario, I haven't seen Sin City, I haven't seen Enemy. You know, I'm not a Villeneuve like buff. Yeah. But when I do watch his movies, I do appreciate that he is a very good director, very accomplished director. Manages to keep some kind of control past the editors, which is normally a director's the proof that a director can direct well is even when it gets past the monkeys in the editing suite. It still looks like it's actually been directed and not just cut together.
And with Villeneuve, like, I mentioned earlier, he's not the traditional auteur in the sense that we think of what is an auteur, but he's definitely like now a selling point for it's his movie. You're going to watch it this is his Dune. It's a Denis Villeneuve.
From the visionary director behind something and something.
Yeah. I mean,
when that's in the adverts,
Blade Runner 2049, like it didn't make as much as it should have at the box office, but it is so good. But yeah, he started in the 90s because he's French Canadian, a film director making French movies. And so his first one was, I'm not going to say the French name, but August 32nd on Earth, which I didn't really want to watch it. I'll get around to it just because I'm going to just run through all these movies real fast because there's only a couple I hadn't seen, which he did write that one. Maelstrom in 2000, he also wrote that one. It was, I think it was at Cannes. It was like really well recognized. And then he didn't release another feature until Polytechnique in 2009, which is about a shooting at a university in Montreal.
Yeah, and that's been on my watch list for a while. I've got a nice Blu-ray copy that's been looking at me from the corner of the room for months, and I still, again, a bit like what Kieran says, I never get to a point in the day where I think, I really fancy watching Polytechnique now.
Yeah, I did watch it, and it is, it's a movie about a school shooting, and especially it's one about like a misogynist motivated shooting too. So I'd never heard of it. It was cool to sort of, not cool, but it was interesting to learn about that event in Canadian history. It was obviously significant to their discourse on feminism and guns. And Cindy's came out the next year with Sam. I know you've seen. I watched a little bit of it.
Yeah. My experience with Denis, I did Sicario was first for me, and then I did Arrival, and then I went back and on DVD watched Enemy and Prisoners and Sunday after that, and that's a really interesting one. Again, not an easy watch, a real tough sit, quite emotionally harrowing, but really kind of really gripping as well. I mean, that's sort of like a kind of a mystery thriller kind of thing going on with a really dark kind of twist towards the end.
For Incendies, I watched like the first 10 minutes and I was like, I can't focus on this right now. I gotta do other stuff, but I will be finishing it today. With Polytechnique, it's interesting because he released an English and French version because he wanted it to blow up in the US. And that's the version I watched, was the English version. I think they filmed it in both languages. It's not lip synced. Maybe parts of it are, or dubbed or whatever, but like they were matching the English movement with their mouths. I was considering doing Enemy for this because I love Enemy. But yeah, the one I landed on was Sicario. And I love Sicario. The first time I saw it, I didn't. And I don't know if it was, Kieran, you talk a lot about like the space that you're in and how it affects your viewing experience. I know I watched it in bed on TV, and like I don't really remember that beyond watching it and like, I thought it was okay. This time, it blew my mind. I love Sicario now. So I think that's why I sort of decided to go with it. It obviously, I knew it was good. I saw people say it was good, but watching this time around, like, man, it is a great movie. So if you haven't seen Sicario for some reason, it follows the Mexican drug war with, U.S. intervention. And what's tough about it is it's sort of amoral, I would say. It's not taking a stance one way or the other, which I mean, I think there's an implicit idea of like, yeah, we don't want the U.S. to like be violating human rights and international laws to go and do stuff, but like it's sort of necessary in a sense, and there is this much more personal aspect to it for Benicio del Toro's character. But for Josh Brolin, he's playing a CIA like advisor guy. Emily Blunt and the dude from Get Out, Daniel Kaluuya, they are playing FBI agents, and sort of collaborating together with the CIA on this operation. And throughout the movie, they're violating protocol. Emily Blunt's like, hey guys, let's try and do this the right way. Let's make sure everything's legal. All our dots are in a row. Let's get an arrest. But like, that's not how this works. You can't take down the cartel doing it the legitimate way. And sometimes you have to take your special forces and go into an underground tunnel and murder a bunch of people. And like that is tough for me to sort of come to terms with the necessity of that. I'm glad I don't have to think about it or really be involved with it. But I think the movie does a really good job of exploring that and sort of showing the ways that you can't just do it the Emily Blunt way, because she there's a point where they're like monitoring a bank for the cartel, and Josh Brolin tells her don't go in, and she does go in, and so she's on the camera. People know who she is now, and a cartel hitman comes after her, and like you just can't follow the normal rules of engagement. Although throughout the movie they do ask, they're like, what are the rules here? And they're like, weapons free, or you have to wait until you're shot at before you start killing people. And that there's that dichotomy between the Josh Brolin, Benicio del Toro, and Emily Blunt. And I think another significant aspect of it is that she's really the only female character in the movie. And I think what that shows is like the masculine sort of bravado that is so present in the U.S. foreign relations society in general, and showing how I think she's more representative of maybe the average U.S. populace, the law-abiding minded person in U.S. society. Which isn't a gendered concept per se, but I think in the movie making that align more with femininity makes sense, where it's like a caretaker sort of aspect to it. And it's about like the American populace having to come to terms with the illegality of what the U.S. or whoever is doing to try and curb the violence, because there are innocent people being murdered every day. There are, kids that are put at risk, people who are beheaded, stuffed in a wall, hung on a highway. And we don't deal with that in the U.S. We don't have that. But it's happening, too often. I don't want to say every day, but too often in Mexico. And, how do you stop that? That's an important question in real life. And I'm glad there's a movie that doesn't take sort of a dictatorial stance and say, well, you have to do this or you have to do that. It's complex, and I really enjoyed it, and especially because of Roger Deakins. Like he and Villeneuve, from watching Polytechnique, I think they have some similarities. That movie's all black and white, so the color aspect isn't the same, but the way that Sicario has a lot of frame within a frame shots that I really enjoy. Just so many. There's so many cool ones. There's this one where we have a sort of cartel member who's in his room, and there's this all black space to his left as he's sitting with his son in the frame within a frame, and then it cuts to Emily Blunt, who's reflected in like a mirror in a frame within a frame, and then off to the right of her is this big white space in the closet.
It's this Deacon, so I'd expect a lot of silhouettes.
Yes. Oh, yeah. At the end,
and he says that I love Roger Deakins. He says he doesn't have a style. And then like every movie for the past 20 years
I mean, there's this classic Deacon shot of like of the team, like the strike team, like walking over the hill at sunset, a magic hour,
and
go in and attack.
The way he captures, it's enhanced in post too, but the way he captures that perfect, like, light reflecting off the clouds, it's getting all these different colors in the mix, but yeah, it's a silhouette. And there are parts of this movie that are impossible to watch in the daytime. If like the TV is showing light reflection, you can't see it. And yeah, that shot you mentioned, Sam, very striking.
I mean, I'm a particular fan of how it becomes a bit more of a Western as it kind of goes through it. Particularly the final act. Most of the stuff with like Benicio del Toro, it's a good old fashioned like revenge Western, basically, isn't it? It's like seem like a setting up for like a shootout, basically, like a confrontation. Towards the end, as dealing with those that murky morality of like the war on drugs, kind of fits quite well with like the revisionist westerns of like the 70s and the 80s as well. It's nice they use those kind of genre kind of trappings, to tell this like modern story.
Thinking about it that way, yeah, Emily Blunt's kind of like a sheriff, and he's sort of like the outlaw. I'm not by the book, but that's
how I always read it.
It's a little.
You were reminding me of. Again, I haven't seen it, so the comparison wouldn't be exact. But Zero Dark 30, where there's the controversy about the torture scenes and whether it was necessary and stuff like that, which then just reminds me. Whoever it was at the Oscars was talking about Zero Dark 30, introducing it with Bigelow. I think, it's very much controversial. However, anyone who could be married to James Cameron for 3 years sure knows a lot about torture. Just walks off.
The Zero Dark 30 cinematographer also shot Dune. So yeah, he has such a wide variety of collaborators. But Sam, on that last part where Benicio del Toro's on that revenge tour, he shoots kids and a wife, which personally I was like, I hope he does it. And then he did. And I was like, yay, that's exciting. Not because I want to see kids die, but like, it's dark, I want the movie to be dark. If I'm in that scenario, my wife and child were killed by somebody. I mean, I hate when movies are like, no, I'm going to take the moral high road. Because who is actually in that situation and takes the moral high road? Emotions take over. You're going to do probably the revengey thing. I think that is probably more true to human nature, but maybe that's just me. But on that family aspect, one thing that's interesting is the cartel members get to have families. We see the kids of several, or at least two members of the cartel, whereas with Emily Blunt, we see her on the road. She only owns one bra. She's living in these dingy hotel rooms, and it's such an interesting contrast to show like the way that the cartel members, they do have some positives to them, right? It's sort of like The Godfather, right? Family is that ethic that they stick to. And just the life of a U.S. agent. They're sleeping for 2 hours on a plane before waking up to go torture somebody. So maybe that's a way to show that they have their own torture, their lack of a personal life. So
hang on. Trying to smuggle drugs through from Mexico to the U.S. and they have family as a core value. And you mentioned The Godfather and not Fast Four.
Hey, that is
going on?
That is the central thing with the five families is trafficking drugs, and they do care about their families in a at least nominal sense.
So what you're saying is that Sicario is the gritty version of Fast and Furious 4.
In a sense, it is.
Okay.
But yeah, I really like Sicario a lot. I might rewatch it today. Who knows? I got to finish Incendies first. But yeah, great movie. Glad I got to talk about it instead of Dune 2.
Is there anything?
At least Dune 2 know what's coming out.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything about any aspect of Sicario, anything Denis did well with that you want him to bring to Dune 2?
Roger Deakins.
It's not going to happen, but Roger
Yeah.
Deakins.
Here's the thing: that movie's already shot, so like I don't really have a way to prognosticate on that. I just think Dune in general it's a different kind of movie, and I'd rather see him not make sci-fi fantasy.
The second half of the Dune story, and particularly as we go into like the sequel books like Messiah, it gets much more into that moral murkiness and kind of deconstructing the hero myth. So I think there's plenty of opportunity to bring in that darkness and that bleakness, in the films going forward. I think he's already said he will be coming back to do an adaptation of Dune Messiah after a couple more films, so maybe in a few years' time.
Make other stuff, please.
Thankfully, the book for Dune Messiah is like half the length of Dune, so it'll only be one movie.
Yeah.
And then Children of Dune is like in between the two.
Yeah. All right. So go watch Sicario if you haven't. If for some reason you're a U.S. listener, it's on Amazon Prime right now. So do y'all have Prime?
I think it was on Netflix in the UK for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It pops up quite regularly on streaming services. Yeah, keep an eye out for it. It's well worth your time.
Yep. All right. Sam. You're next.
So
I think chronologically.
Okay, so anyone who knows me won't be surprised to hear that I'm going to be waxing lyrical about Bong Joon-Ho and his.
Oh my God! How could we ever have guessed?
and his next film, which is Mickey 17. So this is the first film he's made since Parasite. broke new ground at the Oscars, and his third film that's mostly in English, basically. For his 15 years. Sorry, he's. How long has he been working? Since late 1970s, so it's nearly 25-year career so far. It's a feature adaptation of a novel by Edward Ashton. Kieran, have you read it?
I haven't. I didn't know it was a thing until Bong Joon-Ho said he was making it.
Yeah. Also, the novel's called Mickey. The novel was called Mickey 7, so they've obviously added some more Mickeys in this version. He's obviously a later version of the android he's playing. It follows Mickey 17, who's an expendable android employee on a human expedition sent to colonize the planet, and basically they're put into these dangerous these situations dangerous for humans to do the dirty work. Essentially, they're like a slave labor force, and as each body dies, a new one's immediately generated, but it retains its old memories. So it sounds a bit like Blade Runner and Moon had a baby, and it sounds really interesting because of that.
That is awesome.
They've only released like one short teaser for it so far, and I almost hope they don't release too much more. And if they do release a full trailer before, which I'm sure they probably will do, I'm probably not going to watch it because I'd quite like to go in as cold as possible, not really knowing anything else. It's Robert Pattinson. He looks like he's continuing his kind of interesting acting choices since Twilight. Basically, everything he's done has been a good decision and a really interesting performance. A good time with the Rover and all sorts of other stuff. And the cast also features Stephen Yeun and Toni Collette, Mark Ruffalo, as well as Thomas Turgoose from This Is England and Daniel Henshall from Snowtown. So it's it's a good kind of diverse kind of cast. I'm sure we'll bring some interesting things to the table. And I'll put money on Tilda Swinton turning up in there at some point as well. She's not on the cast list, but she's been in all of his kind of Hollywood or Hollywood adjacent films so far. So they obviously get along and collaborate well.
Tilda Swinton's in pretty much anything though. If you make it a slightly offbeat character, you can go, Tilda Swinton, do you want to be this character? Yeah, I'll do it.
True, yeah. I mean, I'm really excited about him going to do some sci-fi again because his last couple of sci-fi is going to have been really good. So he did Okja, he did The Host 15 years ago, and then he did Snowpiercer, which I think was probably almost like his breakthrough in the West, really, because I mean, not so much people in the UK, because unfortunately over here the Weinstein screwed us over and didn't get us a UK release ever. I don't think it ever came out in the cinemas here. It eventually made it to Netflix, but it was out in the States for a while, and a lot of people kind of kind of saw it and thought, oh, who's this interesting new director? This is a bit different.
That is
It's
the
got
only one I knew from him because it was on Netflix
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yes, yeah, and obviously they've had the the Netflix spin-off series since that. But yeah, that's the kind of one I'm going to kind of talk about as kind of a way into kind of what Mickey 17 might be, because I think it's a really interesting film in its own right. His films are usually very got strong political subtext, but they're always entertaining. They've got like a really distinct kind of tone to them. I mean, this one also starred Captain America. I mean, it had Chris Evans in the lead. So it had that kind of blockbuster draw, even though it was quite different from like most kind of sci-fi action films.
I was gonna say the cast was stacked for that movie.
Yeah. I mean, Chris Evans, Tilda Swinton, John Hurt, Jamie Bell, Ed Harris, Song Kang-ho, his regular Korean collaborator. That they're all in there. And,
real quick, let's throw out R.I.P. for oh gosh, all these. Is it Lee Jung-yun?
Yes, yeah.
Parasite, yeah.
The rich dad from Parasite.
Wait, that's the housekeeper.
Mr. Park, you're looking for, I think, if you're looking for the cast.
Yes, yeah. Park Myung-hoon? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this guy played the rich dad in Parasite. Yeah, he'll be much missed. He was a great, again, a great collaborator of Bong's, and one of the most memorable aspects of that film. But if you haven't seen Snowpiercer, it's a near future kind of dystopian movie where kind of in near future, basically the planet's been covered but by a self-imposed ice age. Basically, they try to stop global warming with a big like some weird nuclear device that basically plunged the world into an eternal winter, and the survivors of humanity are transported across the planet by a massive train, which is divided into the rich and the powerful in the luxurious head of the train, and the poor and the powerless kind of fighting for survival at the tail of the train. And basically there's an uprising, and the poor, like a small band of freedom fighters, basically have to fight their way from the tail right to the head of the train to kind of redress the balance of power, and hopefully get some freedom and get a certain quality of life back, from the people who've dominated them. I mean, it's, as satires go, it's a bit of a sledgehammer. The bad guys, they're all cartoon characters. It's like Tilda Swinton, her character Minister Mason, she's basically half Thatcher, half Arthur Scargill. So she's a Tory, but she talks like a union member, basically.
With an obsession with shoes, I seem to remember.
Yeah, well, her metaphor is actually, I think I've got the quote here. We must all of us on this train of life remain in our allotted station. We must each of us occupy our preordained particular position. Everyone has their pre-allotted place, rich or poor, powerful, powerless, hat on the head or shoe on the foot.
Yeah.
And she demonstrates by taking a shoe and waving it around. Yeah, basically, yeah. It kind of follows these. Obviously, the whole society, the Rain Cume society, basically divides, into like basically where they've ended up on the social ladder, and all the rich kind of take up the front end of the train, and got like this ridiculous luxury, like saunas and nightclubs and restaurants and classrooms for their awful spoilt children, and while with the tail end of train, like everyone's like just trying not to starve, subsisting off like these horrible protein blocks, and resorting to cannibalism and infighting. It's pretty bleak.
It's Soylent Green at the back.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And they basically they work out one day that they do have a chance, because they start counting how long it takes for the guards from the front of the train to pass through, and how long it takes for the doors to close again. How long they take to go back through. And one of them notices, oh, it's funny, these guards, they're all carrying around guns, but none of them seem to have fired guns in a long time. They haven't got any bullets. They're out of bullets. This is our chance. There's a great kind of standout action scene about halfway through, which was inspired by Old Boy, because it's like side on, like a tracking shot, like along in a confined space. And basically, as the train passes through a tunnel, the soldiers have got like night vision goggles and axes, and the rebels have got whatever they have to hand, and basically they're going to just charge forward blindly, slashing, and hope they hit the enemy and don't get picked off themselves. It's like a real kind of brutal, kind of visceral kind of action scene, but really, real cool, like a real kind of punch in the face in terms of like the thematic subtext, and it's one of those that kind of plot twists do come as the film progresses. It starts as a fairly conventional, right? We know the bad guys are, we know the good guys are, we know what they're aiming to do, but by the time they get to their objective at the end, there's a few more kind of obstacles to overcome and a few more dilemmas they've got to navigate, and it's also like a final confrontation, where it's like, oh, maybe it wasn't this simple. Maybe I'm not meant to do what I thought I was going to be doing all this time. And it was Bong's first kind of film like using a lot of English language. So it's pretty much everyone apart from Tilda Swinton, I think, basically speaks their own dialects, their own accents. So Jamie Bell, is a Geordie. Chris Evans has got his normal American accent. John Hurt, sounds like John Hurt. Tilda Swinton's doing a Yorkshire accent for some reason. But...
I like how all of these people get specific accents, but Chris Evans is just American.
Well, where's he from? Is he from New York? I don't know. I haven't looked it up.
It is pretty generic American.
He is the Hollywood plant in this not quite Hollywood film. He did a few films like that.
Look, he's Captain America. He has America as an accent.
Yeah.
He's from Boston, but does not sound like he's from Boston.
Okay.
He may have worked on that.
Yeah, he did a few films like this, kind of in the mid to late 2000s, like before and after. Really, he was Captain America. Like he was in Danny Boyle's Sunshine as well. Filling out an ensemble cast, and that it was. Obviously, think of like Scott Pilgrim.
Both films of which having a kind of, I think, it's the Alex Garland. One of his favorite films is. I was trying not to say. Mix him up with Andrew Garfield and say Alex Garfield. But yeah, one of his favorite films is Apocalypse Now, which is why also 28 Days Later has like a Colonel Kurtz figure at the end, and Snowpiercer similarly has almost a Colonel Kurtz figure right at the end. The kind of mastermind in the shadows, revealing all kind of thing. Mysterious figure.
Yeah, but so all these got this international cast, kind of. Very much coming from like their own kind of places in the world and everything. I mean, Song Kang-ho doesn't speak. Most dialogue is English, but he doesn't speak English. He's speaking Korean, but they have this nice little device where they've got he's wearing like a translator on his belt. It's like a Star Trek universal translator or something. And it's a babelfish. Yeah, as he speaks his dialogue in Korean, you get like a kind of a automated kind of like electronic kind of voice kind of speaking in English, but also subtitles. I mean, fun enough, the first time I saw this film, because I couldn't see it, it wasn't released in any form in this country. I didn't really want to pirate it, so I ordered like a European Blu-ray of it. And probably the Blu-rays, it didn't come with English subtitles. Not a problem with most of the English dialogue, but Song Kang-ho's lines I had to rely on hearing above the background noise, like the electronic voice saying that lines in English. Because I think in the normal film you do get English subtitles as well for his lines, but didn't come on this particular disc. So I do hope that kind of, I would say this is definitely one worth checking out. I mean, this was one when I first saw it, I thought it was good. I mean, I like all Bong Joon-Ho's films, and they've all got their kind of their moments. They're all worth your time. I think he can be a bit heavy-handed with some of the symbolism sometimes, some of the satire, but he usually makes up for it with like a certain kind of dark sense of humor about everything, and kind of an awareness of what he's doing with it. When I first saw it, I thought it was a decent kind of sci-fi action film, which I enjoyed, but didn't change my life or anything. I rewatched it post pandemic, and it hit a lot harder with like the inequalities and stuff, and like just some of the kind of policy of this train, kind of like dividing the society, and you can do these things if you're in this place in society, but you can't do these things if you're in this place in society. And there's no real way of changing it. It made me think of like Tory policies and like suggests like herd immunity in a pandemic, and just basically just never mind, you're not rich or kind of powerful enough to buy your way out of this horrible situation, just basically screw the poor, that kind of policy. So for me it hit harder now. The world's been through so much as we've been through.
I think it's also one that's now kind of flown under the radar a bit.
Yeah,
because with Bong Joon-Ho now, really we think of Memories of Murder and Parasite first. Maybe then we go to something like The Host, and then kind of Snowpiercer. It's kind of, I mean, he's done 7 films, wow, but it's kind of on the middle to lower half of that. So it's not one of the first ones you watch, and I think it was the first one I watched before I knew it was Bong Joon-Ho, before I'd heard of Bong Joon-Ho. Years before I kind of clocked onto him. And then I kind of rediscovered him when Parasite was coming out. So I think I watched it when it was on TV, and I'd recorded it at some point like years ago. So it's like I have recollections of it just being a film. Like and it is an adaptation. You're saying about the kind of the political stuff is very hard hitting. It is an adaptation of a French comic as well. And it's also in the nicest way. It's a Western film with an awful lot of American money in. And let's be fair, if you've got a cast like that and most of it's American money, a film like that is not known for being very subtle with its political imagery and metaphors.
No, I mean, apparently, why before he denies like a UK release of it, what Harvey Weinstein was desperate to kind of re-edit it, and kind of make things clearer and make things more kind of stating the quiet part out loud, for certain people in the audience,
Although apparently Bong Joon-Ho likes to storyboard and shoot to the storyboard, so that it's very, very hard to edit not what he shot. So it's it's called editing in camera.
Yeah, it was very much like what Hitchcock did. He only shot what he needed because then you can't come in and kind of take out what's not there. It's kind of
it's called editing in camera, and in kind of early films school, you're kind of taught not to. Because I initially was in my first kind of practical lessons in like first year, I would be doing that and got told no, because if one shot goes wrong, the entirety is kind of useless, because you've only got the minimum of what you need, so you're relying on it to work, which is why people rely on things like coverage. But fortunately for us, Bong Joon-Ho is good enough that he can do that and knows it will work, and so nobody else can come in and change his stuff around and say you have to go with what you got.
So
also on the American money and star and stuff like that aspect of the film, looking through, but I haven't seen it, by the way. I need to, or maybe not. Maybe I don't need to, but
I think you do.
Okay, I have not seen it. Looking through like the award nominations and stuff, it's primarily like local film awards, or critic associations or film festivals, only a couple of those, and just like things I've never heard of, like International Cinephile Society. Oh, I don't know what that is, but one thing that does stand out to me is it making like top 10 lists for big time American, or at least Anglo outlets. So it was on like Entertainment Weekly. It was on AV Club. It was not on The Guardian, actually. It was on, let's see, what else here? The Los Angeles Times. So like it was being recognized by, people really into movies and individual, critics that had audiences, but it is still definitely not a mainstream sort of success.
it was on his way to being like, being a proper breakthrough for him, but it was still like, kind of, if you're into movies, you knew it, but like a general audience still wouldn't have heard of him until Parasite, really. I mean, I think his strongest movies are the ones where he really digs into something specific, particular, aspects of inequality in society and everything. I think his more genre-y kind of stuff is kind of more broader, more general. It's kind of maybe is able to hit kind of more kind of points, kind of approach a wider subject matter, but maybe doesn't quite have the same punch as a Parasite or Memories of Murder, or even a Mother. It's I think his films like Snowpiercer and Okja, they're still good, but I think they're possibly just trying to they've got too many targets in frame at once, so I don't think they really do any of them quite the justice. As kind of entertaining and as stylish and kind of engaging as they are, I think that the less powerful movies they go. But I still think this is well worth your time. This one, it is an interesting one, and depends on your frame of mind at the time. It might really speak to you. And I'm hoping he brings stuff like aspects of this to Mickey 17. I'm sure he'll use another sci-fi framing, to kind of talk about the world as it is today, and kind of bring something profound, to it all.
Agreed with him. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll see this one.
Yeah.
It's a good movie from what I remember. I just don't think I didn't recognize that I kind of needed to sit down for it, if that makes sense. And so I just treated it as another movie that was just on in the background almost. So I have seen it, but I don't think I've properly kind of sat down to appreciate it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I wrote a piece for the site a couple of years ago. It was a couple of years ago.
Who knows? It could have been pre or post pandemic. Nobody knows. Time is gone now.
Oh, here we go. Yes. So, So, 2 years ago, so comparing High Rise and Snowpiercer. So, rewatched both of them like immediately post pandemic, and talk about the the satirical elements and kind of how kind of would they hit hard or not, or more so now.
I haven't seen High Rise because I want to read the book first.
Yeah. And I did rank of Bong Joon-Ho's films, and I think what to put. I think Snowpiercer was mid-table. I think 5 out of 7. Yeah, so 5 or 4. Yeah, actually, it was fifth, so just behind halfway. So still worth your time. And it's probably a decent introduction to his work. It's not too upsetting to start with. Not too kind of. It's not a difficult watch. Like I say, it's entertaining. It's dark, but it's entertaining.
Nice.
It's not traumatic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Kieran, there's an adaptation of a Murnau film coming out. Maybe people have heard of Nosferatu. I don't know. It's like 101-year-old movie. I don't know.
Even if they have, it's possible they might have heard the book it's based on. They might have heard of Dracula. I'm not sure. It's a little indie book, kind of flown under the radar. The only thing you really hear of if you're going for like proper literary studies, and going into that kind of thing. Nobody else really has heard of Dracula at all.
I have a feeling this one won't be a German expressionist film, but.
Yeah, and when you say it's an adaptation of a Murnau film, I think you're actually saying it's an adaptation of a Werner Herzog film, which I haven't seen.
Does he have an adaptation?
The Herzog version is great.
Ooh.
Yeah, Nosferatu the Vampire from 1979.
Yeah. Again,
I'm gonna go watch that.
I compared them for Halloween just gone, I think.
There you go. So Robert Eggers has a new one in like December, Christmas Day coming up. So we've just gone past, so now you have to wait an entire year for this one. But considering it's Robert Eggers and the poster's been flying around for months now, it seems stupid not to mention the fact it's coming out. And I have a weird relationship with Eggers. I first saw Eggers with The Witch, and I saw it at a screening at Abertoir just before it came out. So this little theatre in the west coast of Wales, and they were Universal who were distributing it, even though it's an A24 film, were being very, very precious about nothing leaking out. So they hired their own security for this little like 70-seat cinema for The Witch, which, considering it's a debut, shows you kind of how much they were hoping for it. And it's interesting that it kind of launched Anya Taylor-Joy's career as well, because I don't think she was in much before this. And now we just kind of take Anya Taylor-Joy for granted. I think we're just like, oh, she's been around forever. This is only 2015, so what, like 8 years coming on now.
I think she was unknown at the time. Yeah, she were impressed at the audition, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, she impressed her enough at the audition, and then she was in a load of stuff after it, and then obviously she came in with Split, which I think is really the one that yeah. So The Witch, according to at least Wiki, she'd done an episode of TV, and in the same year she did. Oh yeah, she was in Atlantis, wasn't she? I forgot about that. She's the second series of Atlantis. Did you ever watch that, Sam?
No, I didn't.
It was what the BBC replaced Merlin with.
Okay.
So yeah.
I remember Merlin, but I think I aged out of whatever they replaced it with.
So any kind of like Doctor Who fans or anything like that will know Merlin. Colin Morgan was in it. A load of other people, Richard Wilson and people like that. And they replaced it with the similar kind of thing, but a guy from the modern day, like, gets reincarnated as Jason, aka Jason of the Argonauts, Jason back in the past. And I forgot Anya Taylor-Joy was in that the second season, that same year. So it was like her second year of like screen acting. Realistically, that The Witch comes out, and then she does. The next year she does Morgan, which is awful, just a really bad movie, done by Ridley Scott's son. And I don't want to. It's just really not a good movie. And then Split, and then she goes on and does some more stuff, Marrowbone, Thoroughbreds, and then comes out with Glass, and then she's done all that stuff. And then, strangely enough,
Kieran, is she in Nosferatu?
No, but this is Anya Taylor-Joy's. She was going to be, and then dropped out. But she's also in The Northman. So she was in two of Eggers' movies. But the Witch is interesting. That's when I saw it, and I mentioned Taylor-Joy because that's where she gets launched. We just take it for granted now. In that The Witch gets praised like over and above like loads of other movies. Best horror movies of recent time and stuff like that, along with The Lighthouse, which everyone thinks is their greatest movie of all time, and then The Northman. I think like I've seen nobody mention pretty much. Like it's just gone under the radar, which is a shame because I like The Northman better than his others.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Because personally, I'd say he was onto a blinder with The Witch, and then he's kind of had a slight decline ever since. I like both these other films, but they're not for me. They don't kind of hit like The Witch does, really.
Also, Kieran, I'm gonna fight your perception of what people think of those two movies. I don't think many people think The Lighthouse is the greatest thing ever, and like when I think about what horror movies are better than The Witch recently, like there are some, but it's up there at least. Like it's a top 10 of the last decade.
Like I have very much a thing, and this is a personal thing that I appreciate The Witch and I appreciate The Lighthouse, but I don't have like an emotional connection to it that kind of makes me care about it, if that makes sense. And I have this, and this is just a personal thing. I have this, and it's a thing that you can appreciate, like a good movie and not care about it, and so it's bad for you. And you can like absolutely enjoy an awful movie, which raises it for you. It's a personal interpretation, and I had that with certain filmmakers like Scorsese, like Killers of the Flower Moon, genuinely very, very, very good movie. Like, I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10, like ridiculously well-made kind of thing. At the same time, no Scorsese movie will ever make like my best movies of all time. It's just not going to, because I just don't connect somehow with Scorsese's movies. And the same is true with Eggers' movies, like The Witch. For some reason, I think it's the language, the kind of it's a folk kind of horror folk mythological tale in the kind of early 1700s. And so all the language spoken is using your these and thous, hold thy tongue, heathen, blah blah blah, those kind of like slightly more modernized Shakespearean, but it's got that kind of element to it. And I had this watching it at the time, and that skewed me off it.
Yeah, but if you didn't have that that syntax, you wouldn't have the goat saying, "Wouldst thou like love to live deliciously?"
Yeah, and again, like the directing is very nice. It's acted very well. You know, it's paced nicely. It looks great. But I personally don't have I can't get a thread in which like brings it to me, if that makes sense.
I'm a big fan that Eggers, an American, was so enamored with Ralph Ineson's Leeds accent that he got the rest of the family to put on Yorkshire accents as well.
Yeah. I mean, Annie Taylor-Joy is British anyway, so or partially British, like British Argentinian or something like that.
She is, yeah.
So it's quite funny like that. Yeah. So and then when it gets to the lighthouse as well, which is another one that kind of people praise, and I think part of it is both of them are kind of lumped into the elevated horror absolute crap of a phrase, which is like
AKA
I will,
good horror.
Like it just it's all metaphors, which implies it's somehow better, as if something like Texas Chainsaw didn't have themes and metaphors.
I think it's more like
several times before.
It's more art housey than Texas, or not Texas Chainsaw. I'd put that up there. Like Friday the 13th Part 4.
Some of the frames are inspired by classical paintings. Great. So?
But like cool classical paintings, like not just.
But so what? Like just show me the painting. Like,
well, it's a movie. It's not a painting.
And again, with the lighthouse, it looks gorgeous. It's shot very nicely. It's acted very well. You know, there's some really cool psychedelic imagery, but also at the same time, it's the same thing over and over again, and nothing much changes. Some of the scenes you could swap out for earlier versions.
Isn't that the point, though, that their life on the island is
cyclical?
Never waking.
You don't have to bore me with it.
Nightmare, you know. It's like every day is the same, except a bit weirder each time. You know?
I mean, I'd watched it a couple of years ago and had this thing of like, yes, it looks nice, and yes, it's great, and I like some of the images, I like the acting, I like Defoe, I like Pattinson and like that, but I just don't care about it. And then I watched it again earlier today for this, going, you know what, I've had a couple of years, I'm now watching it for a certain thing. Maybe I'll have a different connection to it. Maybe it will be different. And at the same time, I'm still bored by it. I'm just do something. And it's not like I don't like long movies. Like, you know, Return of the King, 3.5 hours long. Yay! This would have worked, I think, for me, if it had been like, you know how they used to do like anthology TV series, something like a Cabinet of Curiosities kind of thing, 50 minutes an hour, sort of length. I think it just would have cut down, and some just drags a bit for me. Even though it's beautifully shot, it looks great. Some of the imagery is gorgeous, and all that stuff. And I appreciate it as a craft, as a filmmaking exercise, if that makes sense. But I just for whatever reason, there's stuff that doesn't work for me at a personal level to, you know, drag me in that way.
I think one of the problems with the Lighthouse, especially of his films now, is it's sort of dragged down a bit by meme culture. You know, it's a very gifable kind of movie.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
And I mean, even the bit that I'd forgotten right at the end, where the kind of the one of the final shots of Robert Pattinson laughing, where he does it all with the sound and makes it crackle and stuff like that. Yeah. That's a great idea, and I loved that. You know, so there's a lot of stuff that I love about Eggers' work. It's just stuff like that I didn't. Yeah. However, The Northman, which is literally just the retelling of the original story that Hamlet is based off, and also has an opening which is actually, I think he said, an homage to the kind of the Barbarian movie from '84. where it's got a shot of the mountain and the voiceover. I was just like, yes, Conan. Uh, you know how I love my Conan. The stories, not the Jason Momoa version. It's just it is long, and there are bits that I'm not keen on. I've said before, I'm not keen on there's a long take where he goes and raids a village with a load of people, and it's all done in one kind of mostly clean take, like 2 minutes long, and it's very nice and it looks great. And there's a lot of psychedelic hallucinatory stuff and stuff like that. And part of it is his style, and it looks great. And having been to Iceland, some of the stuff on a school trip nearly 10 years, coming up on 10 years ago now, some of the places I do actually recognize. So in one bit, they fly over a waterfall on like a winged Pegasus kind of thing, and that's a very famous waterfall. I've been there. There's some shots of place in the background that I vaguely recognize hiking up on a school trip. So it is quite fun doing that, and it's glorious. And I like my kind of historical, mythological ethics, like fantasy stuff.
I do like that since The Lighthouse, he just gets Willem Dafoe in just to be mad for a couple of scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing the same for Nosferatu. He's going to be playing the Van Helsing equivalent character, So I'm sure
also, Kieran, what I'm kind of gleaning here is you might have liked The Lighthouse more if they shot it in Wales.
No, because there's some movies shot in Wales that I don't care about.
Oh,
although
okay.
even I'm gonna be as the horror fan, I'm going to shock a load of people. I like it, but I don't particularly care either way about American Werewolf in London. Sacrilege, I know. Even though the Yorkshire Moors were actually filmed on the Brecon Beacons in Wales, which is hilarious. I like the movie, but I don't remember it either way.
Geography about that movie makes no sense. They're meant to walk in the Yorkshire Moors, filmed in Wales, and they takes a hospital in London. It's like, what?
Yep. And then the new Wolfman that they're shooting to come out at the end of this year as well. They're shooting in New Zealand. Where was the first movie? Where was the set? It was in Wales. They're not shooting it in Wales. Come on. You got 3 Wolfman movies. 5 set in Wales. None of them are shot in Wales. Anyway, no, it's just I liked The Northman. I reviewed it when it came out. I think I gave it like a 17-18 out of 24 that we had there. It is my favorite out of his movies, and I'm not saying that like I think they're bad movies. I don't. I think they're very good and very finely made films. Eggers has a very good eye for directing. He's got his style. It's more of a kind of methodical style. He likes his kind of slow, very kind of precise camera movements that works quite nicely for when you're building up these kind of slow tension parts. Almost Kubrickian, but I think even more controlled than Kubrick. Just in terms of like for pans where it would start and stop, it's very on point. It's almost like it's rehearsed, it's choreographed in that. And perhaps maybe that's a reason why I'm not as fond, because it feels too choreographed some of the time. But he's a very fine filmmaker, and all 3 films, I can say I'm not massive fans and don't care either way for some of them, but I'm not going to say they're bad films, because they're not. They are good films. I just don't connect with them. But then we've got Nosferatu coming out. It's going to be the remake of the 1922 film, which he has been on record to say is his favorite film ever. And literally in 2015, like The Witch came out, and he was slated to do this remake. And he should have been putting it off over and over, and it just kept getting like put off and changed.
Kieran, would you remake Blade Runner?
Would I remake Blade Runner? No.
Oh, okay.
No, wouldn't touch it. Like, what? Why? I've got Blade Runner.
Yeah, but apparently, I mean, it's interesting. Some directors do this thing with their favorite films, like Peter Jackson remaking King Kong and stuff like that. It's,
no, I would remake films that should have been good, but weren't. Like, I'd remake Aragon.
Yeah, that's a smarter way, probably.
Yes. Stop remaking good movies. Yeah, but he's I think he's got on record saying this goes back even further than when he broke into feature filmmaking. It goes back. That's what he did is think when he was at university, he did like a college play of Nosferatu as well, which he directed. That was like his first.
And then he was asked to do a kind of professional version of Nosferatu as well. And he likes his gothic because he's done a couple of short films. I've only seen the one, Brothers, which came out same year as The Witch. But he did a Hansel and Gretel short, and he also did one for Telltale Heart, Edgar Allan Poe. And I think even Brothers is set slightly historically based on the clothing and where they live, although there's no physical evidence of that. Yeah. So he's yet to actually shoot a film which is set in the modern day. Just saying.
The most modern he's done is The Lighthouse, and that was still over 100 years ago.
Yeah. I think it's going to be definitely interesting. It's a stacked cast. It's Nosferatu, aka Dracula. It's going to be interesting to see the takes that we have. You kind of know the style, and I think he's very much a fan of silent filmmaking anyway, because lots of his films there are long swathes.
The Lighthouse.
Yeah, there's like 7 minutes before there's any dialogue. Even The Witch, quite a lot of it is silent. Even The Northman, there are long sections. Northman, where they had the final scene is a two-man sword fight naked on a volcano, which is Hecla. In Iceland, or meant to be, which when we were on the school trip, I went and we saw the base of it at the visitor centre there, and the line I remember, apparently somebody called some traveller to Iceland called Hecla the place where Judas is kept, which is such the most badass kind of like sounding thing ever. This is where we keep the traitor of God. And there's that. And they had to obviously cover up because they were shooting it, but they were meant to be naked, so they CGI'd in genitals for Alex Skarsgård, and I can't remember who he's fighting, the main bad.
Case Bang, who was Dracula in the BBC miniseries.
So they had to CGI in like silhouettes of genitals to make it realistic, and it's like who would do that like now? But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting film. It's going to be one of the ones that's getting hyped throughout the year as it goes on. Which is why I thought it's worthwhile to mention it, that it is one of those ones that's going to get mentioned over and over and over again. It's going to get hyped. Oh, it's nearly time for Nosferatu. No, time for Nosferatu. It will be an interesting issue.
I'm thinking we should have switched because I love Eggers. So like I sort of think of him and Ari Aster almost in the same breath, and I love Eggers so much more. Like it's not even funny.
I was going to say we're not going to get into my Aster.
I love his methodical style. I love his imagery. I like the fact that there are those big silent swaths. You know, he's not afraid of it, and he feels like a very, you know, for the modern age, an offbeat visual filmmaker, and I love that about him, and I'm sure I'll like this.
I agree with all that stuff, and again, I'm not saying that Eggers is a bad filmmaker. He's not. He's a very good filmmaker. I just, at the same time, don't connect emotionally with his movies, despite how I recognize them as good. In the same way that there are some absolutely awful movies, at the same time, I still get a kick out. You know, you can do the both at the same time. It's all film is a personal response, and at the same time you're going to respond differently at different times to different things. So you never know, in 30 years time I might watch The Witch again and go, oh my god, this is the greatest movie ever. And again,
knowing Kieran, I would bet not.
I bet not as well, but I don't hold up that, and I'm, despite all that, I am still excited to see Nosferatu.
Do you think you'll connect with that more?
What? Because I'm more familiar with the source material and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's possible. I don't know. I am interested. I'm interested to see. I think more than that, if the style will remain, because this is movie 4. His name is getting known. When your name gets known, you get bigger budgets. When you get bigger budgets, you get more producers and that putting their fingers in the pies. And telling you what you can and can't do. He's getting to the point where he's not got enough clout that he can do whatever the hell he wants with a massive budget. Because I think there's a point where you have no money, you can do whatever you want. You made 4 or 5 movies, and then you get told what to do, and then you get enough clout if you manage to make that you can do whatever the hell you want. And he's coming into that middle section. So I think it'll be interesting to see if the style, enough of it survives through that phase, and see just if it works. And I will, as a final thing, say yes, it's a horror movie, but the horror movie does not have to be scary to be a good movie. This is a hill I will die on.
I think also talking about like the fact that he can make whatever he want or not. I mean, The Northman had a huge budget. I feel like pretty much
40 million is not a huge budget.
This has 70 to 90.
Oh, did it?
But for like the style of filmmaker he is, I think 40 is pretty massive. Like if you're able to make the project you want for 40 million, you've got it made. And he seems like the kind where he can pretty much make what he wants.
Is that the budget for Nosferatu or for the Northman?
The Northman.
Northman is 70 to 90 million. Oh, flipping it, got more than I thought. Yeah, that's he's getting to the point now where people start sticking their nose in.
And he's also more of like an art film director, so it's like Villeneuve. Oh, you didn't make back the full budget or didn't double it or whatever?
You only make a movie every 5 years anyway, so...
as part of comparison, Snowpiercer also cost 40 million.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of. Because I looked that up. I might have been thinking of Snowpiercer.
But they think about that, they get away with a lot of that because it's all train interiors mostly. You don't see the frozen waste.
I was going to say, actually, considering the cast, much of the money would have been spent on the cast, to be honest.
Yeah.
I got to see The Northman.
7 or 8 mil about the cast.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah, I'm actually looking forward to it. And it'd be weird because it comes out around the same time, if it does come out, as Jordan Peele's new movie, which we know nothing about.
I don't think Jordan Peele's new movie is coming out this year.
No, because originally it was slated for like December 2024. I think it might get pushed back to 2025.
I think he says in a recent interview the script's about done. So if he hasn't even started,
he hasn't even shot it yet. Oh
no, it's not coming out this year. Unless it's like
like last year they gave it a release date without even having done the script.
Sounds about right.
Unless he's been tweaking the script on the go, I don't know. But...
What, doing a Shining and rewriting the script just before they shoot it? You know.
Who knows?
All right. Well, that wraps up our 2024 movie preview. Who knows if we'll ever discuss any again until the 2030s, 40s. But until then, and I guess next episode too, guys, where can people find you?
You can find me at SSP Thinks Film and a film magazine. We're at the minute, I'd say check out our best films of 2023 list. So I've done one, or I'd say Joe's done one, and Mark and Margaret have also done one. So there's four quite different best film lists, although a few films shared across the lists because we've got impeccable taste at our website.
Hopefully you don't find me anywhere. If you do, I'm judgmental in the
at that waterfall,
places.
Maybe.
Yeah, you find me at the waterfall that I do have photos of on an old laptop somewhere that I can't remember the name of it. It is very big and very massive. I don't think I have anything out, but I will be doing so. I will hopefully be having a review of One Life that I mentioned at the beginning of the show. I am probably going to see Night Swim over the weekend as well that I will be reviewing, and I have sent up when it will get updated, I don't know, but the updated list for my Ghost Story at Christmas will be up because the latest episode, possibly the last one for a while, because apparently they don't give the BBC much money to do, independent short films for Christmas. That the list has been updated and sent off. When it will get updated, I don't know, but that is in the hands of the editors, who is having a well-deserved break.
And
there's stuff coming.
You can find me at Jacob Film Guy. I mean, I'll write something eventually. I do lots of production work, so that takes up my time. But I am going to try and actually track the movies I watch this year. Usually I fall off around February, so I will keep up with that. And, of course, down in the link below, you can support the film magazine by buying stuff off our Redbubble or just give us money through PayPal. We take that, too. I think the latest round of donations went to the writers and not just keeping the lights on, but we're an independent magazine. I mean, I guess technically we made a little bit of profit, but we put everything personal into this, from Joe to the writers, we're independent and we love and need support. So
and when we do get kind of the odd spree for the finances from you guys, it's not like we're earning millions.
yes,
Like, if we get anything at all, it might, it's
could
a
buy a
token
coffee.
almost. Yeah, you can buy a coffee, maybe a cinema ticket. That's it. So as much as anyone can put in, get the merch, get the donations going, and you can at least put names to faces when you're reading reviews and completely disagreeing with everything we're saying.
Yeah, and just even by watching, listening, reading, we appreciate that support too. We don't need your money, but I mean, it'd be nice.
We don't need your money, but we'd like it.
Of course. And thank you, capitalism. And I don't know, is that everything I say? I hope so. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Thanks for watching.
Adios.
Oh, and Greg, James, Liam, thank you for being here.
Joe.
Joe.
Cheers, guys.